Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Fast Five. Today we have our good pal Ryan Jensen here. Ryan is a mobile mortgage specialist with RBC. We do a lot of partnering work with Ryan to really provide that full service that we offer. When clients are looking to buy houses or just have general questions on the home buying process. So, thanks for being with us today, Ryan. How we doing?
Awesome. Yeah, great Monday morning. Thanks for having me.
Great, you bet. So, yeah, I have a few questions here that I'd imagine a lot of people out there are asking. So, I'll start there.
All opinions and views expressed by the speakers are not representative of views and opinions of RBC Dominion Securities Inc. All information and opinions provided in this video are in good faith, but without legal responsibility.
What kind of trends are you seeing in the mortgage industry, in the Winnipeg housing industry? Any concerns out there? Like, what are you hearing?
I don't know about concerns so much. What I hear from a lot of my clients, and I spend a lot of time, especially on the mortgage side of things with our clients, and oftentimes I get to introduce our clients to a real estate professional as well. So I work really closely with that entire transaction and discussion. But I don't know about concerns that we're hearing, but what I'm seeing is still like houses are going around that asking price, sometimes over. They're also still seeing a lot of offers on those homes. I don't know if we're going to see that stop, but to me, that's an exciting trend. That means people are out there and they're still buying, which is neat. On the mortgage side, I mean, I think the burning question a lot of people, and I get asked this so often, this question is, when are interest rates going to come down or something to those effect? And it's hard to really predict the future, whether on the investment side or on the lending side. We've recently started to see interest rates trending downward. However, we truly don't know when when are they going to drop significantly? We just don't know when that's going to happen. So in that sense, I think it's important to start chatting to your mortgage specialist, whether it's myself, someone with Royal Bank, or anybody that you trust. Try and do that early, because when we can lock in a rate and really provide that advice to you, that could really help secure your future.
Okay, awesome. So, and my next question was, along what you said there, with interest rates as high as they are, we've heard of some of the institutions, some of the lending institutions tightening their, measures on how much and who can get these mortgages. Is this a problem for, young buyers? Are you, seeing any distress with these things out and about now?
I never like thinking problem, but at the same time, I often do find a solution. So I guess there must be a problem if I'm finding a solution for folks. The government's put out something, and it's been out for a long time. It's called the stress test, and all lenders follow it. And I'll define it a little bit and then explain maybe some examples of how that could affect someone. So what the stress test is you have to qualify for a certain interest rate. And it's one of two items. It's the highest of these two items. So either 5.25% or that 5.25% or the quoted interest rate plus 2%, right? So if your interest rate is that we quote you is 6.5%, 6.5, let's say, now we have to qualify you at 8.5%, right? Or if you were to choose to do some part of that home financing as a home equity line of credit, oftentimes people call that a HELOC, that would be so prime is 7.2 plus a half, that's 7.7% is what that HELOC or home equity line of credit would be. Now we're qualifying you at 9.7%, right? Almost 10%. So yes, that has increased as interest rates have increased. And really, if you think about that, the higher interest rate that we have to qualify you for, technically the less money that you're going to be able to be pre-approved for. So that's where some folks are going to have that challenge, right? If they really wanted to buy that $400,000 home, And, maybe a year ago when interest rates were lower, or 2 years ago, they may have qualified for that amount. But now as interest rates have increased a little bit, they may not qualify for that. In some cases, it might be $50,000, $60,000, maybe even $75,000 less than what they would have qualified for before. I mentioned just a bit ago, too, that we are seeing that trend of interest rates starting to come down. And it might be a very slow trickle effect. But we're going to see people being able to afford homes maybe more easily, right? I think one thing, too, we talked about, and I want to add on to that and maybe a bit of that advice piece, is if you're thinking of buying a home, and even if it's 2 years out, great idea. Come and talk to someone, right? Whether it's, your partners at Dominion Securities, so Rob and Greg, Branch, it's whoever you trust in this. Because if we can get on this, I like to call it a home buying journey. If we get on this home buying journey early enough, we're going to be able to give that advice, right? And we're going to go through, what a pre-approval looks like, so you're comfortable with what you're able to buy. Or again, I kind of mentioned that solution. Okay, let's try and plan for that solution. Let's try and get you on that right track. So obviously you're a happy home buyer.
That's great advice. Okay. So again, kind of using what you said there, have you heard of a lot of these, I don't want to say younger, but first-time home buyers using this first-time home buying savings account? Is it a popular thing that you're seeing?
I would say on people buying a home, I haven't seen it too much because it's super new. I'm going to say I think Royal Bank, we started offering it in beginning of April. So it's still relatively a very new product. I hate using the term product. Let's call it a tool. So it's a new tool to use. I think as I've had a lot of conversation with folks that are in that planning stage, and they might be a year out, 2 years out, even 3 years out. That's where they may not have heard of that. And that's why I'll loop it back to one of my investment partners to say, hey, this is a great tool to use. Have a conversation about this. Much of the same that I would talk to, a first-time home buyer about, hey, let's talk about where your down payment's coming from. Do you have an RSP, or do you have even a group RSP through your work, right, that you're able to use as a first-time home buyer? Because that could be a great, again, tool to use as you're going down that path. I think we're going to see a lot more people have that first-time home savers account, FHSA, in the future. And I think to me, from right now, it looks like a fantastic tool to get started. And again, it all goes back to that planning stage. Talk to your bank, talk to your lender. Hopefully that's us. Hopefully that's RBC. Talk to us as soon as you can, because we're going to really help you down that path.
Yeah, for sure. And the benefits, we did a video on it previously, and being that hybrid between the TFSA and RSP, getting that tax relief, it's awesome. So you mentioned a little bit on, budgeting and that kind of thing if you're looking to buy a home. Any other tips, for first-time home buyers out there, other than really just having an honest look at your finances?
Fun tip that I always bring up is talk to your parents. You'd be surprised that the bank of mom and dad sometimes have that gifted down payment. Maybe grandparents. Sometimes I've seen siblings. I wouldn't plan for that, but it's a good opportunity to talk to your family when you're looking to be buying a home, because a lot of times you'll get surprised. The other thing is, start saving, right? Look at what you want to achieve in terms of buying a home, and start saving. Having a minimum down payment, minimum typically could be 5%, could be more than that in a minimum, depending on that house price. And that's a fantastic down payment. 5% could be a lot of money, but you're going to see more benefits if you have, that 10% down payment, or even a 20% down payment. So 20% of your purchase price. And what I'll do with a lot of times is I'll go through all these scenarios. This could be your pre-approval if you had 5%. This is your pre-approval if you had 10%. And go through what these payments are going to look like as well, because that's important, right? Do your research, right? Not every home is going to have the same expenses, but look at home expenses and what homes typically cost, right, outside of your mortgage payment, because that's super important, right? Before we hit record, Rob and I were talking about some fun home maintenance things that you get to do when you're a homeowner. So all these things, like start planning, have savings set aside above and beyond your down payment and your closing costs, because even if you buy a brand new home, things happen, right? So you got to be set up for that success. So again, I think the number one thing is talk to us early, right? 3 years out is not early enough, kind of a thing. So
That's a good point. So, aside from these first-time home buyers, now you have people that may be looking to transition into a new home. So if you're, looking at selling your current place and maybe you want to upsize or downsize, depending on where you are in life, what tips do you have for that kind of transition?
That's an exciting part for a lot of people's lives. Like you said, either they're upsizing, they want to buy that dream house, or they're downsizing, right? Kids have moved away, now they're able to downsize into something else. It's always exciting to talk about home ownership, and which is funny, obvious, hearing that from a mortgage specialist, but it's an exciting time for sure. Same thing, right? Let's start that planning conversation early. I love connecting with a client and I say, hey, what's your time frame for this? Or when do you want to achieve this goal? And as already a homeowner, they might say, we're looking for that perfect house, Ryan. It might be a year from now. And I love that, because now we can take some time and we can really plan things out. As a homeowner too, a lot of times you may have that existing mortgage. You might be able to move that mortgage from the address that you're selling to your new home, so you can keep, a part of that interest rate. We a lot of different options within that I could chat about, but that could give you some of that, ease of that decision, right? You're not selling that home at that really good interest rate to buy into a higher interest rate all the way. You're not 100% into that higher interest rate. So sometimes that can be exciting, but yeah, really plan it out, right? Find out what your home value is, right? Not just your city of Winnipeg assessment, but, talk to your real estate professional as well, because they're going to be able to come out and see what your home looks like. And it's also another set of eyes on your home, right? I know my house is a mess. I have some animals. So I know if I was going to try and list my home, I would need to do some major cleaning. Some people don't have that same awareness of their home, right? So having that other person who say, hey, maybe let's change some cosmetic items on your home, that could be really easy. So again, that planning early, then if there is some, even minor work to do to your home, you can start doing that so your home is ready to sell and get the best value for your home, right? Especially you've put all your hard work and paying your mortgage down, you want to get the top value for it, just like anything else that you have. So again, start planning early, include your team, right? Always have a team behind you, whether, some people like Greg and Rob, myself on the mortgage side, have that real estate professional, be ready for all those things.
Mm-hmm. You said something interesting there. Do you see a lot of, clients, customers moving their mortgage from, their current place to a new place?
Yeah, exactly. You have the ability, in most cases, there's some odd cases where you may not be able to move, or what we call a port. You may not be able to port your mortgage. For example, if you were porting to a mobile home, right? You decided to downsize and now you're moving into a mobile home, you may not be able to port your mortgage for different reasons. But in most cases, yeah, you can move your mortgage. So you have your mortgage with Royal Bank at 123 Fake Street. You sell that home, you have a firm sale agreement for someone to buy that home, and now you're moving to 220 Portage Avenue, and now you're able to move that mortgage in there. There's 3 ways, and I can talk about a port a lot of times, but there's 3 ways to do that port. Number 1 is you're going to increase the mortgage you need. So you're going to need more mortgage because now you're buying a bigger place. We're going to do what's called a blend, typically a blend, where we're going to take your mortgage as it is right now with the interest rate and the term left, and we're going to blend it with the new money that's required. If you're going to keep your mortgage the exact same, so you don't need any new mortgage because you have a great down payment, all those fun things, your mortgage would stay the exact same. we can move it over exact same way. Those two options don't they don't have a penalty attached or a breakage cost. And then the third option, that's when you're like, we're really downsizing, Ryan. We're moving from Wellington Crescent to this beautiful condo, but we don't need that gigantic mortgage anymore. Let's downsize that mortgage as well. You're going to pay a prorated breakage cost or a prorated penalty for that. And again, let's talk this early. Let's plan this out so we know all the ins and outs of this stuff.
Right.
Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So my last question then was a little bit aside from the mortgage kind of talk that we've had, and that is on renting. You hear a lot about renting prices as well, right? I listen to the Global Mail podcast, and they seem to talk about it every 2 weeks. Are you hearing a lot of that as well? Are there conversations you're having about pros and cons, rent versus buy decisions?
Yeah, it's, as a banker, and I've been with Royal Bank for 15 years, so I'm biased, right? You got to own your property. You got to own your own home. But the truth of the fact is, sometimes I'll have a conversation with a client, and it's one of my favorite questions that I get asked, Ryan, should we buy now? And really, it depends. There's so many factors and so many variables that are going to really answer that question. And everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their own unique set of circumstances. Buying may not be the best option, right? Depending on where you work, if you have to travel to work, if you're able to work from home, some cases renting is awesome, right? We talked about that home maintenance stuff, right? Tearing apart your plumbing to try and find what's going on. Typically, as a renter, and I'm not going to say as a blanket statement, but typically as someone who's renting, you don't have to do that. You can call a landlord or your landlord, and they're going to pay someone to do that. So it's those kind of things, depending on what your lifestyle is, right? And I often have the same conversation with, do I buy a house or do I buy a condo? Same idea. My bias is buy a house, but that's my bias. That's not going to be true or right for every single person. Really depends on your lifestyle. So I would want to have that conversation and really find out what's important to you and where you are in, and this is such a bank industry term, I think, but where are you in your life stage, right? What's inspiring you or motivating you to want to buy a home? And then that's what's going to really determine that right answer for you. Because again, everybody's different. I sound like a broken record, but everybody's going to have a different circumstance or circumstances that are going to lead to their decision.
Totally. Yeah. Hey, we see it on our side too. So thanks, Ryan. That was awesome. I hope it gives some, holiday dinner table chat for those watching out there. If anyone out there does have any
great
questions.
Time to ask for a gift, right? From family is Christmas. Hey, we're buying a house. What's under the tree for us?
Yeah, a little small for a condo, but okay. No, that's great. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself. I can put you in touch with Ryan here. And, he loves having those conversations. He also does some acting on the side. So if you have a career goal of becoming an A-list actor, maybe he can help you out too. So thanks again, Ryan.
Thanks, Rob. All the best.
Take care, everyone.